Good morning. I will call the December 17th Norfolk Planning Commission meeting to order. Inform the public of the Open Meetings Act posted in the northwest corner of the building. And ask for roll.
Waite.
Here.
Sock. Here. Bryant. Tupke. Franklin. Kuby. Griffith.
Here.
Mason.
Here.
Ronfelt.
Here.
And I'd ask for approval of the full agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion and second. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Also ask for approval of the minutes of the December 3rd, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and second. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
And the consideration of the resolution 2024 PC 8 approving conditional use permit for an oversized accessory building at property addressed at 55949 843rd Road. And we'll read that into the record. Excuse me. Be it resolved by the Planning Commission of the City of Norfolk that Travis and Angela Bauman are hereby granted a conditional use permit to construct and allow an oversized accessory building subject to the following terms and conditions. The total maximum permitted square footage at ground level for detached accessory buildings on the property described above shall be 5,400 square feet, which includes the existing 3,000 square feet building with the proposed 2,400 square feet addition to the existing building as shown on the attached site plan. No commercial use shall be allowed, and the accessory building shall be used for personal storage only. There shall be no storage of hazardous materials. There shall be relief from the architectural compatibility requirement provided in section 28-287, subsection 7 of the Norfolk City Code. Pursuant to the Norfolk City Code, this conditional use permit shall run with the land. Failure to observe and maintain the conditions and restrictions of the conditional use permit shall be considered a violation of the Code of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, subject to a penalty as provided herein, and may be grounds for review, including alteration or termination of the permit. All procedures and standards outlined in section 27-56 of the Norfolk City Code pertaining to the conditional use permits shall be observed, and conditional use permit granted herein shall be subject to the provisions of the Norfolk City Code that provide for an appeal to be taken within 15 days of the decision of the Planning Commission, and there shall be compliance with floodplain regulations and any other applicable city, county, state, or federal regulations that may apply. I would take a motion.
Make a motion to consider resolution of 2024 PC 8 approving a conditional use permit for an oversized accessory building at property addressed as 55949 843rd Road.
Thank you. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
And now the consideration of resolution 2024 PC-9 approving a conditional use permit for an oversized accessory building at property address at 2604 Timber Meadows Lane. We will read that into the record. Be it resolved by the Planning Commission of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, that Nicholas and Nicole Kettler are hereby granted a conditional use permit to construct and allow an oversized accessory building to the subject to the following terms and conditions. The total maximum permitted square footage at ground level for detached accessory buildings on the property described above shall be 3,400 square feet, which includes the proposed structure and exterior roofed patio access areas as shown on the attached site plan. No commercial use shall be allowed, and the accessory building shall be used for personal storage only. There shall be no storage of hazardous materials. There shall be relief from the architectural compatibility requirement provided in section 27-287 subsection 7 of the Norfolk City Code. Pursuant to the Norfolk City Code, the conditional use permit shall run with the land. Failure to observe and maintain the conditions and restrictions of the conditional use permit shall be considered a violation of the Code of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, subject to penalty as provided herein, and may be grounds for review, including alteration or termination of the permit. All procedures and standards outlined in section 27-56 of the Norfolk City Code pertaining to the conditional use permit shall be observed, and the conditional use permit granted herein shall be subject to the provisions of the Norfolk City Code that provide for an appeal to be taken within 15 days of a decision of the Planning Commission. And there shall be compliance with floodplain regulations and any other applicable city, county, state, or federal regulations that may apply.
Make a motion to consider resolution of 2024 PC9 approving a conditional use permit for an oversized accessory building at property addressed as 2604 Timber Meadows Lane.
Second that motion.
Thank you. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
And the last one. Consideration Resolution 2024 PC-10 approving a conditional use permit for residential above-ground floor only at property address at 1800 West Paswalk. We'll read that into the record. Be it resolved by the Planning Commission of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, that the well, NE, is hereby granted a conditional use permit to construct residential above-ground floor only, subject to the following terms and conditions. The maximum number of residential beds shall be based on the DHHS regulations. The minimum required parking for both the commercial and residential use shall be maintained. There shall be no storage of hazardous materials. Pursuant to the Norfolk City Code, this conditional use permit shall be a personal privilege granted to the applicant, shall not be subject to transfer. Failure to observe and maintain the conditions and restrictions of the conditional use permit shall be considered a violation of the Code of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, subject to penalty as provided herein, and may be grounds for review, including alteration or termination of the permit. All procedures and standards outlined in section 27-56 of the Norfolk City Code pertaining to the conditional use permits shall be observed, and the conditional use permit granted herein shall be subject to the provisions of the Norfolk City Code that provide for an appeal to be taken within 15 days of decision of the Planning Commission. There shall be compliance with floodplain regulations and any other applicable city, county, state, or federal regulations that may apply.
Move to consider the resolution 2024 PC-10 approving a conditional use permit for residential above-ground floor only at property addressed as 1800 West Paswalk Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right. This time I'll open up the public hearing at the request of Steed LLC to consider a conditional use permit for storage and warehousing of non-hazardous materials, non-hazardous products, on property located approximately an 1/8 mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue. Mr. Dietz?
Morning. Kyle Dietz, 1105 Westbrook Drive. I'm representing Steed LLC, which is the company that I own. We're looking at putting like an RV storage unit building. It's approximately 168 by 50 on the property there on the north side of that property. It'll sit right behind that building that we call our budget furniture and mattress building there on the right side, yeah, right there. And it'll face west, so the doors would open to the west. And this land is a little bit unique because there's a regulatory floodway that runs through the bottom half of that and kind of extend, there it is, in that shaded area. So to my knowledge, I don't think you can do a whole lot with that area there. You can't build anything in that area. The blue shaded area, I guess, is a flood plain, which you can build there as long as you build it up to code. So we're looking at developing that property and just adding out, or I'm sorry, like RV storage, oversized storage units. So they'd approximately be 14 wide by 50 foot deep is what those would be in there. Any questions on that part? Be like a metal building, which we can get into more on the overlay district area when we open that up.
As far as, you want to go right to the setback, I presume, on that north side?
The building will probably start in line with the budget building on the north side. So yeah, I think the setback's 25 or 35 feet. But it would be somewhere right along in line on the north side there with that budget building. And then it would extend down just past the budget building. Because I think that budget's 120 or 130. So I have another picture somewhere that shows like a green box that kind of gives you an idea of where this would be.
How many units are you looking at?
It's about 12, I believe. A little bit more. Right there. And then there was one that showed it over the floodway. And again, these are approximate. This isn't, that's just an idea of what it could look like and where it would sit. Again, that would all be pending building permits and et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't want to get too far down the road until I got a conditional use application approved and everything else was good. I'd rather get all the ducks aligned up first instead of coming back here asking for forgiveness.
I appreciate that, Mr. Deeds.
Well, I've been in your shoes before, so not your shoes, but yes. So
We've been down this road.
Yes. So I'd rather just be upfront and try to figure out what's going on before we put a shovel in the ground.
Civility, I appreciate that.
Any questions on that part of it? That's just the scope of what we're looking to do. There were a couple pictures coming up here of what it'll possibly look like. I'm looking to do like a metal building, pretty basic, a lot of doors on the west side. There's just really not a lot of development opportunity there. The lot is very small, that's buildable. And you can see to the west there, that floodway continues there. That's not our property on the west side of 15th Street there, but that really limits any potential growth opportunities from building or anything like that.
And access would be off what you said it was 15th Street.
15th Street, yeah. It would be somewhere probably just north of where that floodway kind of intersects the road there would be the access coming in.
Sure.
There's just not a lot back there. If you go to the south, there's like Wispac. To the west, you get, you run into the railroad a little bit further there. And then to the north, you have Love's and then AWG. So it's just a lot of truck traffic on Monroe, but they're mostly turning north into that like holding lot there, another block to the west, like I would imagine that's 16th Street. Then they kind of get access into AWG there. So to the south, there's not much, but on Monroe's, there's a fair amount. There's more traffic overnight, actually, quite a bit there, actually, going in and out of Love's and to AWG, midnight to 6 a.m., I would guess.
What is that to the west of Love's?
That's just a holding area, I think, for trucks going into AWG.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's like a gate, like a staging area.
I had no idea that was even there.
Yeah. Now that lot there, that's not AWG there, I don't believe. That one is, I think. Yeah. So that's where they access all of their yard for their trucks coming in and out there to deliver groceries. and there's a lot. So on the conditional use permit, any questions on that, you guys?
Thanks, Kyle. Any discussion on any sort of conditions for that? Fairly standard ones that, we just read 3 of them in. Val, anything specific that we would need to include in that, or just go off based off our other storage facilities?
Usually they're, you need to decide on a time frame, personal privilege, floodplain. I mean, obviously that's kind of one of our standard ones that they would have to do. You want it specifically for like RV storage?
Not specifically, no. It's basically just oversized storage. It will not be climate controlled. So if somebody wants to park a boat in there or a car or 2 or something like that, I don't want anybody working out of it. It's illegal to live out of them. That's not the intention. It's just for storage is what it would be.
So
Oversized storage.
no commercial out
Correct.
of there, storage of non-hazardous products, kind of like
Right.
some things like that.
Want it to run with personal privilege?
Explain that to me again. So I guess doesn't.
So personal privilege would be to Steed, the
Okay.
owner currently. So if
That'd probably be fine.
Steed were to sell it to somebody else, then they would come in and kind of re-up the cup at that point in time and
No problem
recommit
with
to
that.
everything.
If that's easier, I'm fine with that.
And for what? Do we need a timeline if it's personal privilege?
It's up to you guys if you want to put a timeline on it, or if you just want to leave it personal privilege, and then if it's sold, then the new person, it just is void at that point in time, and the new person comes in and gets it.
I think it'd be okay doing that if he has the property right by it there.
Right, I mean, it's your property all around anyways, so.
Kyle, this would be exclusively indoor storage?
Yes, I will not have any outdoor storage there, correct. Yes, yeah, there'll just be access off 15th, and it'll just be an open lot basically to get into the units. Just to allow people, if it is RV or boat, to back in and do things like that. But yes, there will be no outdoor storage. Good question.
So we can add that into if you would like that. So indoor storage only, no outdoor. Mm-hmm. Just in case people get a little gung-ho with their storage.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm there every day, so I can kind of keep an eye on it too.
I assume based off the size of the lot that there's likely gonna be no fencing or gating of any kind.
Correct. Right now, the plan would not to have a fence or anything like that. Yeah, I don't, I think it just might cause more issues than anything. So yeah, the plan was not to have a fence at that point.
What do you think in terms of paving for the lot? Are you anticipating paving this, or would they?
Yeah, if there's another picture, if you go down a little bit further, this was my intention. It's a very architectural drawing. So the green box would be the building. The slanted lines just right outside would be a paved approach, and then the dotted line or paved area would be slanted lines, and then the open area around the box would be like a gravel, would be the plan. Just because concrete's not free and very expensive. So that would be the plan. I would imagine that would be 5 feet off of the building, somewhere in there would be the hope. And then obviously the approach off would be concrete as well. I don't know what the rules would be, but 30 to 35 feet maybe. Thoughts?
Yeah, what is that, on the approach, is that mandatory? Having that,
Is it? I would imagine. Yep, yeah.
I think would Steve say that the drive needs to be paved and connected to the,
So,
I hear that conversation where the driveway has to be connected to the building.
yeah, and Steve and I kind of had that conversation, so it'll be 25 feet off the building for like parking in front of the building.
Okay,
And so that'll be 25, and then, so our code talks about the ingress egress to required parking has to be paved. But with this, for like storage, there really isn't required parking because it talks about, required parking for employees of the largest shift. This won't actually have a shift.
there'll be no employees working there at all on property.
I think, just a, kind of a comment relative to all of that. So, personally, from a, I guess from an engineering perspective, you know, not covering that with concrete or even asphalt, you could probably asphalt it at a half the price.
It's true.
But, it's storage, it's irregular access, and the more impervious we make the surface, the more we have to deal with floodwater. So I like the idea of these storage units, you know, leaving that as a pervious surface, just as a function of our stormwater program.
Especially when he's like, feet from that floodway. Having minimal concrete probably makes more sense.
And if you're a student of history, this has been
Not long
used
ago.
before, the floodway. 15 years ago, it went right through there. Missed our building due to engineering code, thank goodness. But, yes, so what you're thinking from an engineering standpoint, it's better to have it to allow water through possibly instead of just concrete in the entire, okay. What was the 25 foot off of the building? Was that something that is required if there's employees? Or,
No, that's in the building code, I believe, with Steve
Okay.
Nordhuse's, because that's what comes off of like, in front of garage doors and things like that.
okay,
But Val, so that would just be 25 foot in front of the garage doors, correct? So if you have a garage door and then a space and then a garage door, it wouldn't need to be paved the whole way across the front of the building.
but there's only gonna be probably
It's-
5 feet in between each one.
Yeah, it's gonna be easier to do snow removal if you just have a slab of concrete instead of, a 2-foot gap or something like that, probably.
If that was to be 15 feet, I know we're getting into building permits here, but if 15 feet, is that an exception? Is that something that Steve could approve, or is that something that has to be approved and modified because it's building code?
Yeah, I call them variances,
Okay,
but yes, it would have to be a conversation with Val and Steve.
okay,
That's acceptable. We have-
Yeah, he'd have to look that up in his book.
Okay.
And I'm not quite sure how you get that variance, because unlike like the zoning board of adjustment that can give variances, like his code and board doesn't give variances. It's essentially just have you interpreted the code correctly.
yep, okay.
So,
Okay,
So is your thought, I think you said, I can't remember what you said relative to RVs, but you appear to be sizing these for like motor coaches. Is
That,
is that kind of the intent?
or pull behind campers, anything like that. People just need, you can't store them in your driveway, I think per city code. And people just have, they need a place to put them. And because they're big, they're 30 feet, whatever, and they store all their stuff with it. If it's a boat, they've got the tubes, they've got everything else with it. They might store a lawnmower and a snow blower there and switch it out to keep it out of their garage.
And I don't know that, going back to your image, I would want to put bollards.
Yes, of course, yes. Yes, yep, that will be there. I try to protect the investment. Yes, very much so. The black dots, we're planning to do shrubs of some kind or some type of green space. It's all grass right now. That's just native grass, I guess. I don't know, I didn't plant any of it, but it's there and we mow it. But it would be some green space type look.
Val, and that's part of the overlay piece.
It's part of the overlay and it's part of our general code also that you are required 10 feet of green space along the frontages. So you have obviously a corner, so 2 frontages.
That would
And
be those black dots.
Well, those would be like possible shrubbery of some kind going vertical. The rest, the brown area is grass when it's in the summertime, it'd be green.
And in that
Not
10
like planted
feet,
grass, but.
you would have required shade trees, 1 every 50 feet.
Or maybe those were trees. I can't remember.
They look like trees to me. So.
I love trees. There's over 200 trees on this property that we have. So yes.
But that'll catch the regular code will catch the green space as far as.
Yeah, the 10 feet and the 1 tree per 50 feet.
Okay.
Regular code and highway code would catch that, so it didn't matter either way that we would have that. And that would be part of the building permit when it's turned in. We would get a landscaping plan showing that minimum requirement.
Any other questions for Kyle on the conditional use permit?
I have another question. So there's no setback requirement on the east side,
Correct.
right?
To my understanding.
But we might want to check to see if there's a utility easement along that parcel. So if there's a 5-foot utility easement, we might need to adjust that.
I'm not like going right to the property line. There's flexibility there. It doesn't have to be. I want to be far enough away from budget that I don't have any fire issues. I don't want to go straight up to it. But yeah, it can be moved 5 feet if needed or anything like that.
This is, of course, I'm gonna get deeper into the weeds with you, but, did you look at just covered storage versus, did you think about just covered storage? I've had RVs and
Yep.
and boats and stuff, and we tend to store ours at the fairgrounds.
Mhm.
And, it's not sided, there's no doors, I mean, they just pack us in there, obviously you can't necessarily get in there and get yours out. during
Yeah.
Winter storage months, but I know in Brookings, when I was up there were several folks that put in large covered storage areas, and they were, and it was just a single row of stuff, but you could almost do a double roll.
I thought about, like, I've looked at this property 6 ways to Sunday, trying to figure out what to even do with it. Looked at possible mini storage, possible, outdoor storage, covered storage, this type of thing. I've kind of settled in on this because it's lockable. I think that's important. There's not a lot going on to the west, so there's not a lot of pedestrian traffic. There's not a lot there. So just from an overall safety and security standpoint, I felt more comfortable
When
locking.
when it's just covered, it needs to be behind fence.
Yeah, yep. So,
I also look at the aesthetics of that too in that area. We get some covered storage and you get anything
Look at the
and
aesthetics of the road and that.
I have. Not here to talk about road. I don't drive on it very often, but yes, that road is, it could use some work. But it's not traveled very much, so, but that's okay.
We do plan on doing some improvements in there, but I think some concrete repair and mill overlay in
Okay,
the next 12 to 18 months.
perfect. Well, I hope I can add to the tax base.
any other questions for Kyle?
Okay, I'll take my seat. Right?
I like this. I think it's a good use of the property. Being right next to the floodplain, there's not a lot you can really do with it. And with him owning it already and owning the stuff next to there, it makes sense for him to do. Good investment for him, but, that's, yeah.
I concur.
Seems really well thought out and presented and planned, so, yeah, agreed.
There's no further discussion. I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we are. Oh, sorry. I didn't know we are.
Cody? I will
ahead
close the
of
public hearing, seeing that there's no other
bad.
discussion. And now, take your motion.
There we go. Make a motion to have city staff prepare a conditional use permit for discussion and action at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting for storage and warehousing of non-hazardous products on property located approximately 8th mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue.
Second?
I didn't know, do I need to add those extra conditions in there? Or will those just go with it?
As discussed, are we gonna back ourselves into a corner?
You want me just to read what I have? So
Thank
that
you.
can-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have personal privilege, no time frame on it. Indoor storage, no outdoor storage. No commercial ventures out of there. No storage of hazardous materials, and then our standard 3 at the end of each conditional use permit. Did I miss any of those?
So, we discussed as part of, this is what worries me? Mm-hmm. As part of the cup? As far as the frontage that we had discussed in subcommittee, does that need to be part of the cup?
So, I guess, Kyle, what we're talking about is, there's a conditional use permit to allow the storage in the overlay district, and then you're asking for a waiver to do a full metal building instead of the,
Yeah, I didn't talk about that because I figured it was coming up, but we can open that.
Yeah.
If you want now too.
why don't we open that up and maybe talk about both, because no, you are Kyle, that's Dirk, is asking about.
Yeah, that's fine, we can do that. I didn't know the order of how you wanted to.
No,
I
that's
just
a,
didn't want to back us into a corner and close something and approve something before the
yeah.
discussion is had.
Wouldn't relief from the overlay be in the cup?
No, not necessarily, because that is the waiver that comes through you're kind of the quasi board of adjustment is how we set it up. And so that's what we were talking about, that if this is kind of hidden behind the budget building currently, what happens if the budget building comes down? Then do we put something in the cup that says, if you do this, then you have to do that, so that's kind of how they're connected a little bit, so.
So seeing that, I will open that public hearing of condition 11. Condition 11. At the request of Seed LLC to consider a waiver of highway corridor overlay district requirements on property located approximately 8th mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue before we
So we're skipping number 10 for now,
Take-
and we'll come back.
take that conditional use permit up for approval.
Does that make you?
Yes,
All right.
sorry for the confusion.
No, that's okay. I want to get it right. Kyle Dietz, again. I do apologize. I forgot to send Val the letter that I was referencing in the waiver application. So, I should probably read it in. I'll read fast. I am writing to respectfully request a waiver for the preferred building material requirement, highway overlay district for construction of indoor RV storage units located approximately 2 blocks west of Highway 81. I am passionate about contributing positively to the development of Norfolk and enhancing the city's entrance along major highways. With my experience as a local business owner, our furniture store is situated on Highway 81. I have invested in creating a welcoming view throughout the view through landscaping along Highway 81 corridor, even prior to the creation of the Highway Overlay District. Our 8 acres of property along US Highway 81 has approximately 200 trees on it currently. I am committed to ensuring any projects I undertake similarly contribute to the city's aesthetic appeal. The RV storage unit building I'm proposing would be approximately 2 blocks west of US Highway 81 and face west away from Highway 81, making it largely invisible to motorists traveling along the highway due to it sitting directly behind budget furniture and mattress. This lot is situated in a challenging location with half of the area in a regulatory floodway, limiting development options. Additionally, adjacent lots to the west lie within the regulatory floodway and are unlikely to be developed. Considering these constraints, storage units appear to be the most feasible use for this property at this time. To move forward with the project, I'm requesting a variance in the preferred building materials to permit the use of 100% metal for the outside of the structure. The building will be of neutral colors and would be consistent with the building materials of neighboring buildings. Granting this variance would not be a detriment to the public good and would maintain a practical and visual acceptable solution given to the building's limited visibility to US Highway 81. Adding preferred building materials would create an undue hardship on this project as the neighboring buildings do not have preferred building material. I assure you that I will adhere to all the requirements and recommendations within the highway corridor overlay, including landscaping to maintain the area's appearance. Granting this variance would not be a substantial detriment to the public good and would not be impairing the intent and purpose of the highway overlay or corridor overlay. I appreciate your time and consideration for this request. I remain committed to following all applicable guidelines and ensure this project aligns with the city's vision and growth and development. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to include that, so I had to sit through that. There is a deck that went with that, just to show a couple quick pictures here. If you go to the one that shows the building front elevation, keep going right there. So that's what it'll possibly look like. That will face to the west. That has more units on it than what I'm looking at doing, I believe. But if you go to the next slide, it just kind of shows possible elevations. And I guess the point of this request would be the preferred building materials on the north elevation and in between there. I feel like you can't really see a whole lot from the highway, and the goal of the overlay district, I believe, was to just enhance the entrances into Norfolk. We have spent a lot of time and money into maintaining our property and maintaining a good appeal coming into the city of Norfolk along Highway 81 there. I had some pictures, if you scroll down, Val, a little bit further, kind of shows the front of our building. We have put trees and kind of broken up our big metal building there. That was done way before the Highway Overlay District was developed. I believe in 2016 we won the Tree Arbor Award from the city. So I'm not trying to skate on anything here. I'm just trying to ask for a little variance on, I don't want to put stone up 4 or 5 feet on the north elevation and in between each little door. So that's the request. Any questions? I still plan on doing landscaping around there, some light landscaping, but just not wanting to put stone on the building.
I believe if it's tucked totally in behind the bedding store, and doesn't protrude out where it's visible there, and maybe if the trees on that north side were strategically placed, it would be pretty much invisible from the highway.
I mean, you drive along Monroe, you would see it, but that's 2 blocks off of 81. My plan, one possible way on the north elevation there is to do some type of even like light landscaping in front of the building that would bring, shrubs or something up to kind of break up some of that. I mean, it's going to be higher. It's going to be 16 to 18 feet tall, but something along the line there to make it look somewhat appealing. But yes, the intent, and the thought was it's so far tucked back off of the highway.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with, because of the shrubbery, because of the landscaping. You know, we had talked in subcommittee about, you know, well, we need to have like something there, I think, but I forgot about the actual landscaping piece of disguising the, you know, just the metal building, I guess. But as far as the conditional use permit goes with that is, if in fact that budget furniture were to somehow either go away, be, you know, removed,
Yep.
then adding a condition in there to adhere to the overlay district standards, if that were ever to be.
Yeah, so like if we tore the building down and then that would expose that east elevation, you thinking like trees along there or something on that east side, or what do you?
I'm thinking that if that were to ever go away,
Then you would have, I see.
then it comes into play where we have to add the aesthetic.
Okay,
Right.
that's fair.
So I don't want to be left in the dust on that one as far as
Totally fine.
that goes. I hope it never goes away. I hope it
Well,
continues to
I mean,
be,
we might
but-
tear it down and build something bigger there.
Right.
You know, like,
Well,
I mean, I under,
as
or,
long
or
as
do
you
something
mask
like,
your
yeah.
properties,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yep,
right?
yeah, no, I get it. I get it. That's fine. I have no problems with that.
Would that be possible just to add the required materials without having to tear the building down? Like, it would just be a matter of adding stone probably, right?
Yeah, you would just add exterior materials to
Okay.
what is there, yeah.
I think that would be possible. I'm not a to add,
Yeah.
to
Just
add.
add
Yeah, you
stone,
could add
yeah.
wainscoting so
Okay,
far up that
perfect.
east
Yeah.
side.
Okay.
exterior.
Okay, yep,
Just wanna make sure we don't
Back you
bend
in the
into the
corner.
corner
Yeah,
either.
yep.
that makes sense.
So basically, what I'm understanding is if that building went away and there was nothing there blocking the view, then we would need to fall in line with the overlay.
Yeah.
Fine, sounds good.
Okay.
Any other questions on that public hearing part? Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on item number 11? So I will close this public hearing and open number 10. Well, don't need to open again, but we'll have discussion and a motion on number 10. So as we discussed, you can whip something up as far as from that conversation of if that building were to go away,
Yeah,
we would
I'll-
then fall back into standards of the overlay district.
I will put something in there, and then it may just be easy enough to kind of how we attach a site plan to a cup, maybe just kind of attach a similar, like pull one of these pictures out to, just to say if, you know, the eastern building shown here were to ever permanently go away. So if you were to tear it down, but then come right back in with a building permit that shows that it's gonna go back, then obviously it wouldn't kick in, but, I'll figure something out and get that in
Thank you,
the
Val.
conditional use permit, yep.
All right, now I think we're ready for a motion.
Well, we do have a motion and a second. I mean, I
Oh.
kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit there, but so maybe we can we'll
I'll-
just start over.
I mean, I can amend that motion and just add the conditions that Val listed along with the new one of the,
The building.
yeah, if the building comes down
Sure.
adjacent to it, then kicks in the highway corridor overlay district beautification standards. Is that okay? Okay.
Do we need a second or do we have that?
Well, do we need a second
Somebody
the
else can second
amended
just to
motion?
make sure.
Go for it.
I'll
It's
second the
a-
amended.
We have a motion and a second, again,
Oh, a third.
Yeah.
and I would ask for your vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
And so now this is for the city staff to prepare a resolution for discussion and action at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting to allow waiver of the highway overlay district requirements on property located approximately 1/8 mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue. So this is what we just discussed, and we're kind of protecting ourselves by doing it the way we did it with the cup. So, and I would agree as far as that west side, there's not a necessary need because it doesn't face the overlay district. So, and with the landscape, I think on that north side makes me feel a little bit better about not, granting that piece of the waiver. So.
Hearing no further discussion, I'll move to have city staff prepare a conditional use permit for discussion. Actually, no, reading the wrong one. I'll move to have city staff prepare a resolution for discussion and action at the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting to allow a waiver of the highway overlay district requirements on property located approximately 1/8 mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
And now a consideration and recommendation of a sidewalk waiver requested by Seed LLC on property located approximately 1/8 mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue.
You want me to shed any light on that, or is this not a public thing?
Well, yeah, you can speak.
Okay. All right. In planning this, I talked to the city staff here, and there's a sidewalk requirement on this. I love sidewalks. I live on a corner lot. I love sidewalks so much. And I love the city trails and everything that we have invested together in. This property is a little bit unique with the floodway going to the west there and to the south. And sidewalks, I believe, are predominantly for pedestrian use. So, if there's not going to be a retail shopping center or businesses to the west there and to the south, sidewalks, I feel like, would put an undue burden on this project. Also, if you go down a little bit further, Val, on that packet I had, you guys probably have seen it, but the part where it has the red box around Monroe Avenue, keep going. Monroe Avenue was redeveloped after we bought the property. We bought the property in 1997, and there was no stoplight on Monroe and Highway 81. That was put in, I'm going to say 15 years ago, could be longer. But when that Monroe Avenue was redeveloped, there really wasn't thought to put in a sidewalk at that time on the south side of Monroe. The grading is very steep, and it's not that sliver of land there is not very wide at all. So putting a sidewalk there, you'd have to get very creative. So having a sidewalk on the property that we're looking at going, anywhere there doesn't make a lot of sense because it's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere. And then if you go south further, there's no sidewalks as you go to Wispac and Cubbies, and there's some industrial places down there. There is a sidewalk on the north side to Love's, which connects to the city of Norfolk if you go across Highway 81 to the east and then goes over the viaduct on the east side. And then along the south side there, going south, that connects down to Tahazuka Park and the Cowboy Trail. My request is to waive the sidewalk requirement on this for two things. Number one, the sidewalk's not really going anywhere or going to anywhere. And number two, this will not be a place of employment. It's just going to be storage, so there won't be any employees there. There'll be almost zero pedestrian traffic, and it'll just be in and out for storage. So that's the request. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Personally, I think this, you know how I love sidewalk waivers. I don't like them at all, actually. But in the sense of this one makes the most sense of most any of the ones that we've waived because of there's zero pedestrian traffic. This is not a residential, place. So I think, and now that they have access on that north side with, zero access to put it on the south side of Monroe, I think this one makes probably the most sense out of all of the waivers we've granted. Because there's the floodway with literally nothingness, but I still would voice my despise for sidewalk waivers.
I agree, though. I think this makes the most sense for that reason. And I mean, with no employees and no business traffic going in and out of there, it just.
I agree, but you have to keep in mind that we can't anticipate what will happen in 50 years in that area, but it can always be, if they need to be put in, they can always be ordered in. 40 years ago, I would never thought that Monroe would have changed from a straight-through intersection there to a curvy, swavy thing, so things happen that we don't anticipate.
Seeing that, I'd take a motion.
Make a motion to consider recommendation of a sidewalk waiver requested by Steed LLC on property located approximately at 8th mile west of South 13th Street and West Monroe Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
And Val for the November 2024 building permit report.
So November 2024, single-family detached, we had 5 new permits. So as of this year, we're up to 7 single-family detached. Last year, we had 23. I didn't remember that, but we were doing good last year. No new duplexes or multifamily, so this year we don't have any, and last year we didn't have any at this time either. 2 new single-family attached, so we have 2 for this year, and we actually had 2 for last year at this time too. But we are about 4 million higher than last year for the total valuation.
Nice. Thank you, Val. Any other open topics or concerns?
Well, I just wanted to, since it's that time of year, and I should do this better during the time of year too, but thanks to you, Planning Commission, for giving up 24 of your mornings each year and for taking the time and the effort. And you've had some tough ones this year and the past few years particularly. And so I just wanted to say thanks for, taking the time and the thoughtfulness, because you are helping plan not just for today, but 50, 100 years potentially from now, as to what decisions you make still affects those. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and everything in between. And so just wanted to say thanks for everything that you do and for giving up your time and effort and thoughtfulness for doing what you do.
Thank you, Val.
Volunteer basis.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Val. You're the one that guides us anyways, so.
You do all the heavy lifting for us.
We show up, so.
I appreciate it when you show up, yes.
Putting out those public notices and not rescheduling. So. Thank you, Val. I appreciate that. And Merry Christmas to everyone else, too. Any other open topics or concerns? Seeing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Val, what's the next step then?
So the cup and the waiver will come back to commission,
Okay.
and the waiver will move on.
Is that gonna be at the next council meeting?
As long as nobody cancels.
Oh, I see, yep. Will I be notified or not, or I just need to pay attention to?
So you will get an email from Brianna again, and that's the end of this
Okay, wonderful.
So it would be the
Thank you.
sixth and seventh.
Once the officer replies,
Okay, so 6 would be for the waiver for the sidewalk, thank you. And then the